Howdy. I forgot a bunch of shit in the other room. So let me go get the other shit.
Last two pages of the British story.
Of the what story? What British story?
The British hijacking.
Oh, the PS5.
Yeah.
Did you hear that thing about the guy who bought a PS5? And I'm streaming. And told his wife it was an air cleaner.
What?
And she found it and found out that he had lied to her and dropped whatever those things are, $700 on a PS5, and she put it on eBay for $50. It's like, bitch.
Yeah. That's a fun story.
Yeah. When I saw Pahrump, obviously you think it's Art Bell.
Yeah.
But hasn't he been dead for a while?
Yeah. Well, I think.
Have you seen this man? You were probably shot at.
244 shots at him that he fired at cops, and the cops caught him without any injury, didn't shoot him once, didn't take one shot at him.
Yeah, weren't they just sitting there taking rounds?
I'm guessing he ran out of bullets.
Yeah. Yeah, and I heard they just got out of rifle range. And just wait for him to run out of...
I'm picturing, it's like, there's one guy there who actually had to count how many shots were fired.
Yeah.
And I'm picturing, like, you just have this one guy there, you just hear...
Yeah, running out of fingers.
You just hear, one shot fired,
Yeah.
two more shots fired.
They probably... Yeah, have it on dashboard cameras, too.
Yeah. I'm assuming they do.
Pahrump.
Pahrump. I think of the Bunny Ranch, I think, is the one over there.
Yeah, that is right outside Reno.
Yeah, one of my friends worked at...
Because that's the ironic thing about Nevada. Is that the two most populous, prostitution's legal, but not in Clark County, which is Las Vegas, and Washoe County, which is Reno.
Yeah.
But Washoe County is about 10 miles wide and 100 miles tall. So as you're on I-80, the second you leave Washoe County and go through Sparks and get out of Washoe County, then there's a row of like four of them, and then you got to go all the way to Fallon where the Navy goes, and every restaurant also has a trailer in back.
Yeah.
Because when I used to drill in the Army at Fallon, and when an air wing from San Diego was in and they were staying on base, there was a local price for a burger. If you went in, you just want a burger, you have a burger, and then there was a visiting sailor price you could get the $110 burger. There was no lower price, or else why are you there?
Yeah.
But we used to drive up in our Humvees or our M113s or APCs and get out and eat at this one diner. And, we were locals. They gave us the $5 burger and all that. And there was I knew a guy, a bartender in Reno. He was in the guard with me. His wife worked 14 days a month out of the Bunny Ranch. And she'd just call him or text him. So, how's everything? I'm all good. And then she came home 2 weeks later with an ass load of money.
Yeah.
And they never talked about it.
Yeah.
Because it's legal. It's a legal thing and the whole deal. and he would, he would go out to Fallon, and if he felt like it, he'd be like, yeah, okay,
Yeah,
professional courtesy.
fair enough. That works.
Southern Californians have been ordered to stay at home starting tomorrow at midnight as the availability of ICU hospital beds drops below 15%.
Okay,
By the state on allowing businesses to operate. San Diego
how's everybody? I gave myself a beard trim today.
the new order, which will be in effect through Christmas.
Hair salons and barber shops closed.
Zach is the new board up. He's learning.
Museums, zoos, aquariums, indoor recreational.
He's good though.
And movie
No hat. I took a shower. I shampooed my hair, and I figured,
Joaquin Valley is also below the threshold for ICU availability and will fall under the state.
I'll give it a shot. I didn't put any product in my hair.
A 34-year-old man from
I took a shower
arrested on suspicion of murdering his 12-year-old son
and
and 13-year-old
went to and took a nap.
You gonna have anything to play?
at home on Century Circle.
I don't believe so.
Possible natural gas leak.
Sounds good.
A husband and
What are you saying?
wife are recovering from COVID-19 just in time to celebrate their
Nothing. I just want a free couch.
What are the odds of a 100-year-old and a 98-year-old surviving?
Yeah,
in
did
the city of-
everybody?
says his parents are 198 years old. He says they had a fight.
Everyone heard about the beheadings in Lancaster?
3 weeks in the ICU at 2 separate hospitals and have just been released. Joe Biden's inauguration is expected to be different because of the pandemic.
It's fucked up.
Says people shouldn't expect millions of people at the National Mall or a festive inaugural parade.
He says his top priority is to somehow celebrate his inauguration, but to do so in a way that is safe for the American people. He says you're likely to see a lot online, a lot of virtual events, and that they're simply going to have to use their imaginations.
Biden says he also hopes President Trump will attend.
You mean for on this tonight?
Is a peaceful transfer of power. Trump has not conceded the election.
I don't believe you.
Some small business orders have held a protest in Santa Monica.
Let me
as
look.
California prepares for a new stay-at-home order.
Shit, you're right. 15/5/2020.
Bill Saloon and Grill owner Angela Marston organized the rally this afternoon outside County Supervisor Sheila Kuhl's house after a video she posted about her business being shut down went viral. Madsen says the stay-at-home orders are pushing small businesses to the brink.
Two of his 4 kids.
Another business
He was a physical therapist in Santa Monica. And I'm not sure, I can't confirm this, but I think the 12-year-old boy went to my daughter's elementary, because a lot of parents who kind of have their shit together, who live east of the 14, if you know what I'm saying, they will drive 14 miles to take their kids to a good elementary school. And I mean, it's impressive. It's very impressive. And I'm not sure, but I cannot confirm or deny, but I might remember this guy picking his son up every day, and he didn't say anything. He just stood there with his arms crossed, waited for his son, and then got his son. I'm not sure though. I'm waiting for some other parents to tell me something. And also, DCFS is not confirming or denying that they were involved in the case. They just said they expressed, sadness at what happened and all that. But it just seemed really odd that you've got 4 kids, everything is fine, and then one day, you kill and behead 2 of them, and that you were not in the system. So when I'm able to talk, which is going to be Tuesday, December 8th. That's my daughter and we get out of the system. But when I'm able to talk about the system, I need to take a couple days and think real hard so that I don't libel myself. But I mean, I'm fucking pissed. I'm livid at this county and this system. And if you saw the Netflix documentary, The Death of Gabriel Fernandez, My documentary would have been one part, because I know exactly what happened. Because it's been my fucking nightmare for a year and a half to be in their shitty system. So, yeah, my school district is 90% of the students live 10 miles or more away, and they're loading up school lunches on the buses and driving them to the Walmart parking lot. KFI AM 640 live everywhere on the iHeart Radio app. It is the Dark Secret Place, your weekly look at the world melting down. And it is, as we know now, not that I don't do, most of us here at KFI don't do anniversaries, but it is the anniversary of the of Dark Secret Place and me at KFI in December of 2007. So there's that. And as you know, the world has been melting down for a long, long time. And certainly since I got here, because we check into it every single week. So tonight is no different. But let me start by saying that the pasta is melting down. There's some sort of segue. By the way, I'm streaming on the YouTube at unsheepyourself.com. So go there and it will redirect you to the YouTube channel. And we interact during commercials and stuff like that. And sometimes I go pee off camera, you understand? So you see just a empty seat because I'm peeing. And so we will get to how did it end? How did the 1918-1919 pandemic end? With a bang or a whimper? We'll get to that. And my new favorite sheriff. We'll play as much as we can of the sheriff's defiant statement to Governor Newsom. Fallout from the now a week and a day ago, the assassination of the head of the Iranian nuclear program, the Robert Oppenheimer of the Iranian nuclear program, which was, is this computer up? Because I have the special Tony Sorrentino edition of Dr. Mohsen. There we go. So there we go. And it's not as funny now that you're not employee of the month to do that. Fakhrizadeh. Because Fakhrizadeh. Fakhrizadeh. Like Scheherazade. So anyway. So what does it look like? What are the options? What are the most likely outcomes? We'll get to that right off the bat because of a piece of information that's not exactly being kept secret by the Israelis, but I'll give it to you. But let me start with this: the story that you're not hearing in American news, and it's this. Let me stop right there. For about 3 years now, there has been a chasm between the Gulf Arab states, Saudi Arabia, Bahrain, and the UAE, the Emirates, with Qatar. And you probably haven't heard about this, but the Saudis actually closed their land border with Qatar. And if you can put your fingers together on your hand and stick your thumb out. And now, I'm talking about your left hand. And now cock your hand 45 degrees so that the thumb is straight up. That's Qatar. And it has a land border with Saudi Arabia. The Saudis closed it. And because Qatar is made of money, they imported dairy cows. They used to import their milk and groceries and stuff like that over the Saudi border. And it was usually offloaded on a western port in Saudi Arabia or at Jeddah or somewhere like that. Dhahran on the east or Jeddah on the west. So Qatar has taken it upon itself, having seen how vulnerable they are to such an embargo by closing a land border, that they bought thousands of dairy cows and imported them to Qatar. And then they tried to be as self-sufficient as they could in terms of greenhouses and things like that. Keep in mind, it's a phenomenally wealthy country. And so it's not exactly like they're, cleaning their plates or anything like that. It's just that it sort of became a national rallying point, sort of a F the Saudis, let's get the cows here. And dairy, if you don't know this, dairy in the Arab world is a really, really, really big deal. Like it is here, but it's a very, very big deal there. You can go all around the world. You're used to American ice cream, right? You can go all around the world, and you don't get exactly what you get here in this country, where it's made of cream and heavy whipping cream and all that. You go to the Arab world. This is what surprised me about Iraq. The ice cream kicked ass. It was phenomenal. And we used to make ice cream stops. So all these soldiers would get out, we'd leave security in the Humvees, go in, get in line, and get ice cream, because it was that damn good. Same as in Saudi Arabia and Qatar. And so the Qataris said, we got to have ice cream, and we're not importing it, we make it here. So anyway, I'm just making the point that there has been this chasm, and also, if you don't know, Al Jazeera is based in Qatar, and Al Jazeera has one overriding editorial rule. Like here at KFI, it's pronounce it like Chris Little says how to pronounce it. In Qatar, it's you can tear apart any country's society. You can go to the U.S. And you can do stories on the rights of women to vote, and or you can do suppressed voting in Canada or whatever, but you can never, ever, ever apply that same editorial lens to Qatar. You can't do a story about how come the emir doesn't allow women to vote in Qatar. How come women can't drive in Qatar? And this is part of the reason that MBS in Saudi Arabia, the Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, authorized women to vote in Saudi Arabia was as a giant fakhrizadeh to Qatar. He said, oh, look at this, Saudi women are driving. What are you guys doing in Qatar? So anyway, this chasm threatened to push Qatar closer to Iran because a significant amount of the population of Qatar are Shia Arabs. And they have more in common, they feel, kind of like Iraqis do, they have more in common with Shia Persians in Iran than they do with Sunni Arabs in Saudi Arabia. And so the Emir of Qatar, who's a Sunni, is always riding sort of a fine line where he has to be a nice guy to his population because they are religiously a little different than him. And so it's been a balancing game. Well, there's been a breakthrough. There's not going to be a breakthrough with Iran and the Gulf Arab states plus Israel until Qatar is on board, on side, as they say in soccer. Well, very quietly, there's been a breakthrough, and the diplomatic standoff between the Arab states and their fellow Arab state Qatar is finally over. What you're not hearing about in this country is that on Al Jazeera, somebody was credited with bringing this all together. And this is the foreign minister of Kuwait, who was sort of the middleman on this. And this is a translation of the foreign minister of Kuwait, Foreign Minister Al-Sabah, talking about the breakthrough and who he credits. So listen to this surprising name. In just a second. Hang on, right now. This is the foreign minister of Kuwait, Foreign Minister Al-Sabah, by translation. What? Of course, that led World News Tonight and everything, didn't it? Because another Kushner breakthrough? Wait a minute. Wait, what? Bahrain recognizes Israel. The Emirates recognize Israel. Netanyahu visits Riyadh last week. those were significant. No prior American president was even close to any of that. Now the diplomatic breakthrough between Qatar and the other Arab states is being credited to who? That by the way, that's on Al Jazeera. That is on Al Jazeera tonight. Not anywhere here in the U.S. All right, back in a second. It is the Dark Secret Place. We'll get to denouncing current public officials' lack of credibility and their running of the COVID pandemic versus officials in 1918, 1919. In just a second, it is the Dark Secret Place, KFI M640 live everywhere on the iHeart Radio app. Credit Stefanian with the news. Something in my back of my throat. Might be a nose hair. Who said I look like Hemingway? That's bullshit. Whoever said that. I denounce you. Did everybody see the sheriff of San Bernardino County and his statement?
So, found a funny clip once I get it, I'll play it for you. Somewhere out of Africa, as a lesbian or a transgender person being interviewed by a guy in Africa, and the guy is like, "Hello and welcome to the show," and then he like introduces the person. It's like, "I call you Mr. or Mrs. by the way," and he's like, they go to it, and he's like, "So tell me, why are you gay?"
Is it in English?
Yeah.
Oh, really? That's funny.
Let's see if I can get that clip.
So yeah, the sheriff of Riverside County. So if you haven't heard this, I will play it. And he's pretty lit up. Sheriff oh, sorry, I'm answering a question there. Sheriff Bianco
learned of the new regional approach to combating COVID
of your Riverside County, who is, by the way, spot on. He's on point there on the beard game.
He's in Uganda. Who says I'm gay?
Where is that? Is that South Africa?
It's in Uganda.
Oh, really?
It looks like it's from a Ugandan site. Why are you gay?
How come we don't have journalists doing hard-hitting questions like that here?
You are gay.
That's funny. I'm aware that Hemingway got buku. It was really nice, actually, to not work on Thanksgiving. I mean, I always fucking do it, and then I do it on Black Friday. And I just flat out said, hey, this year, so this is kind of an important time right now, and so I'm not going to be working on Thanksgiving, and I'm not going to be working on Christmas and New Year's. I'm going to be probably up in Canada with family. I'm going to fill in for John and Ken week after next, the 21st, 22nd, 23rd, and then the next week, the 28th, 29th, 30th. So I'm filling in Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, then Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. So that's that deal. You know, like I say, I've been here 13 years. You know, I used to work full time. Probably never should have left. But you know, being when I don't fill in, they get a lot of emails about why isn't Brian filling in. I'm queued up.
2 minutes.
Well, Kennedy's back on the air on Fox Business, so we want to make time to do a podcast. Well, it's not. I have a citizenship application. If you have a citizenship application in place with Canada, you can go into Canada. But I'm going to invoke my daughter's Canadian citizenship and mine. I rejected mine when I turned 18. And I'm going to get it back and be a dually. And get it for my daughter also, just so that she always has a Canadian passport. So I can go into Canada when you have a citizenship application in the works. I can get UK citizenship as well. Because Bean and I were talking. Bean retired, and he's in London now. And we were talking, and he said, "Wasn't your grandfather, a Commonwealth soldier, a Canadian soldier?" And I said, "Yeah." And he said, "Children and grandchildren of people who fought World War I can apply for UK citizenship." So why not, right? More passports is what I say. I have to mute it or else. Whoops! What'd I do? I stopped it. Actually, I wanted to stop it right there anyway. KFI AM 640. It is the Dark Secret Place. Brian sits here until 11, and the story of December 5th, 1941. Of course, Monday is the 79th anniversary of the Pearl Harbor attack, but today is the 79th anniversary of American commanders being told on Friday, December 5th, that Japanese diplomats and consular offices have been ordered to destroy their code machines and burn their codes in D.C., but hang on to that one till Sunday because they're decoding something. But all up and down the West Coast, Mexico City, Panama, Los Angeles, San Francisco, Seattle, and Vancouver, BC, and Ottawa, Canada, the capital of Canada. Do you need more signal than that something might be afoot? I don't know. But I'll tell you the backstory about that in hour number 3. And then I'll tell you about the Pastry War, one of the more obscure wars to watch over North America. Here's my favorite sheriff of the moment. And that would be Sheriff Bianco. of Riverside County. He and Villanueva here in LA, and the sheriff of San Bernardino County, Sheriff Fran Jensenson, that elected official, they've all said, you can governor all you want. You can spray your Newsom juice everywhere you want. You need us to enforce this crap. And the sheriff of Riverside County rather forcefully and adamantly declaring his position.
Hello, I'm Riverside County Sheriff Chad Bianco. We have all recently learned of the new regional approach to combating COVID-19 and the pending closure and stay-at-home orders from our governor. We were also told there was a potential he would be withholding federal and state funding from counties who did not enforce the orders. Ironically, it wasn't that long ago our same governor loudly and publicly
You can hear that,
argued
right?
how
Yeah.
wrong it was for the President of the United States to withhold federal funding from states not complying with federal laws. The dictatorial attitude toward California residents while dining in luxury, traveling, keeping his business open, and sending his kids to in-person private schools.
I'm going to rewind that because I missed an opportunity to wake the kids up. He used the D word.
Funding from states not complying with federal laws. The dictatorial attitude toward California residents while dining in luxury, traveling, keeping his business open, and sending his kids to in-person private schools is very telling about his attitude toward California residents, his feelings about the virus, and it is extremely hypocritical.
Ouch! Ouch! Shots fired. How about that? Gavin has a pretty good muscle when it comes to playing to his base and his constituents. This guy's talking to the people of Riverside County. He may as well be talking for everybody in California. This is calling Gavin out real hard and personal about his business, his kids, the whole. By the way, he's part owner of the Plump Jack wineries with restaurants, and it's nicknamed after his adoptive uncle. You know, that Getty, that one, because Gavin grew up rich. He's not a Getty, but he was virtually adopted by them. But real quickly, back to Sheriff Bianco.
Dictatorial attitude toward California residents while dining in luxury, traveling, keeping his business open, and sending his kids to in-person private schools is very telling about his attitude toward California residents, his feelings about the virus, and it is extremely hypocritical.
Wow, that's 59 seconds into it, and he wasn't even speaking for all of it, and he pretty much encapsulated how we all feel about our leadership. Does it feel here in December of 2020 that public health officials have lost credibility? ? Does it feel like elected officials have lost credibility? Do you know what the most important thing in a public health crisis is? And this is lesson number 1 when you go to public health school. It's maintain your credibility. More on that, and contrasting it with 102 years ago here in Los Angeles right after this. But this is more from Sheriff Bianco and the statement he released yesterday. He's pretty on point so far, kind of like his beard. That and more, it is the Dark Secret Place, KFI, AIM 640 live everywhere on the iHeart Radio app. Claudette Stefanian with the news.
Small business owners have gathered outside LA County Supervisor Sheila Kuhl's house to protest.
Yeah, I always cite this article by John Barry, the writer of The Great Influenza. And if you guys have been listening to me for a while, you know that I've talked about this for years, about the response to pandemics, because it's a really interesting story. So more of that.
From the go big or go home desk.
That broke on Monday. I heard a certain show was talking about it yesterday, like this just in.
Yeah, no, that one I saw that one a couple days ago. I'm like, I gotta hold on to that.
Yeah.
One. Seriously, what's the bigger atrocity? The breaking of COVID regulations, or the sheer number of people, and why weren't there more?
It's like, why cap it at 25?
I know, seriously.
I'll hold it up again. This is from, I'll tweet out this link. It's from Smithsonian Magazine. And I'll send a link. The guy's book John Barry wrote the book called The Great Influenza, and it's John Barry, like the guy who wrote the James Bond theme. But he recounts a story where he was invited to participate in a simulation here in Los Angeles in 2016. And I've told you the story a couple times, and I'll reread it because it's all about credibility.
Why would a plumber just tell me what it costs to unclog my drain over the phone? Is it that complicated?
Yeah, The Great Influenza by John Barry.
You've got a nice aroma. Who are you? Will you tell me how much to unclog my drain?
It's a really good read. I mean, I read it when it was released, and and like I say, if you go way back with Dark Secret Place, then you know I've talked about those so-called escape communities in the past, just kind of out of the blue, because they're just interesting stories. And then all of a sudden, in January, it got to be very relevant. And if you remember back in January, and I haven't deleted any tweets. You can go back to my timeline and find this. But I had said, the way successful communities fought the 1918 pandemic was by going ugly early. And so I predicted that COVID would require the use of LA Memorial Coliseum as a COVID ward. I did not envision public health being so fucking incompetent that they would take recovering COVID patients and put them in long-term care facilities. But I didn't know about the $800 a day stipend from the federal government that they got for doing that. And does everybody know that Medicare pays 20% more if someone is a confirmed COVID diagnosis? So there's literally a monetary incentive for hospitals to swipe everybody. You go in for a broken ankle, they will run your sample, and then they will bill the federal government more because you are a COVID positive, person. So there's that. That didn't exist in 1918, to some shock, eh?
Visit our website for more great deals. Now through Tuesday at Stater Brothers Markets.
The holidays are here, and if you or someone you know needs help,
2 minutes.
for a story, submit a video or voice message to KFIAM640.com, and the helpful Hobbit guys and gals in blue
To ensure your Medicare Advantage plan includes PIH Health doctors and hospitals, including PIH Health Good Samaritan Hospital, be sure to ask, will I get access to PIH Health hospitals? Can I continue to see my PIH Health doctor? PIHhealth.org/
Say goodbye to 2020 with a brand new 5-star ghetto air conditioner and $220 in your pocket. Am I happy that 2020 is over? You bet I am. And I want you to be happy too. So let's get rid of that old unit and put something fresh and new in its place. Gel, GOETTL, $220 and not hard to spell. Contests on this station. Go to KFIAM640.com/rules.
An iHeart radio station.
This is the Clash, Bank Rubber. You never heard nobody. KFI AM 640. It is the Dark Secret Place live everywhere on the iHeart Radio app. And shot across the bow of Governor Gavin Newsom, and you know how Gavin takes this kind of thing. Because Gavin is such an alpha male, though he's never actually done anything except grow hair to show that. Meanwhile, you have a law enforcement veteran, an elected official, Sheriff Bianco, Riverside County, calling Gavin out personally about how he conducts himself by example. And the temerity, the untrammeled malevolence of this son of a bitch telling Californians how to live when he clearly hasn't done it himself. Anyway, back to Sheriff Bianco from yesterday.
Seasonal increases in patients, coupled with COVID-19 patients, is irresponsible. It appears part of the new goal is to shift attention away from his and others' personal behavior with a do as I say, not as I do attitude by turning public opinion against California sheriffs. He is expecting us to arrest anyone violating these orders, cite them and take their money, close their businesses, make them stay in their homes, and take away their civil liberties, or he will punish all of us.
Okay, here comes the money.
I believe that all jobs are essential to someone. Leaders do not threaten, attempt to intimidate,
Correct.
or cause fear. Bullies do.
Correct.
As has been our position from the beginning of this pandemic, the Sheriff's Department is asking and expecting Riverside County residents to act responsibly and do what they can to protect themselves and their family from contracting the virus. Wear your mask and practice social distancing. While the governor's office and the state has threatened action against violators, the Riverside County Sheriff's Department will not be blackmailed, bullied, or used as muscle against Riverside County residents in the enforcement of the governor's orders. I wish you all a very Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, and a safe and Happy New Year.
Effing hooah. There you go, Sheriff Bianco, encapsulating in 3 minutes what we all are thinking when a Sheila Kuehl goes to Il Forno in Santa Monica hours after she voted to end outside dining, and then covers up with a lazy lie. The arrogance of that particular county council member to just go on one particular news outlet and say, well, I was saying goodbye to all those hardworking servers and the thing with the deal and the whatever. But 3 hours before, she expressed horror at how close those servers are to the people at the table. Then they have to go to another table and the whole thing, but she had no problem engaging in that risky behavior. And we don't have to rehash anymore about Gavin Newsom. I believe I speak for many of us when I say my curiosity in regards to what hypocrisy Gavin will perpetrate next has largely been satisfied. And what Gavin's clearly doing is he's seeing political pushback, and he stopped caring about the actual spread of the virus. He wants to appear like an alpha male and order us all tomorrow for another, California hard lockdown, LA County, the whole thing, and then threatening us with sheriff's departments. And what's really funny about that is that there is a thing called the California Constitution, and you can read it. And the sheriff is an elected official, and he's the highest ranking, believe it or not, the sheriff is the highest ranking elected official in every single county, in all 58 counties of California. There is one person who can unseat a sheriff, and that's the state attorney general upon order of the governor. I believe that's how it works. So will Gavin do that? I mean, will he escalate this? Credibility is a big deal. And I asked you that before the break. Have public health officials displayed or continue to display credibility to you? Their refusal to answer questions from the media or only take leg humping, lick spittle, butt licking questions, like has been done here in LA County by Dr. Barbara Ferrer, her inability to directly answer questions has contributed early, back in March, to losing credibility. Now, never mind on the federal level with the Surgeon General saying masks don't work back in March. If he had said, we need the masks for hospitals and first responders, I think Americans would have said, okay, I'll make one at home or whatever. But instead they lied to us. So they lost credibility. But down here on the local level, the inability to give straight answers, and you violate public health guideline number 1, maintain credibility. The public must have faith in your directives, suggestions, and worst case scenario, your diktats. Because as I tweeted back in April, the full robust power of public health law is going to shock most people. A lot of people didn't know about this stuff. And if you've read anything about 1918, then one of the things that strikes you is how similar it is to now. And the municipal requirements that if you're out, you must be wearing a mask. In November of 1918 in Seattle, Los Angeles, later on in San Francisco. San Francisco regrets not doing it earlier. But it was a city mandate here in Burbank, in LA, in Orange County, later on in San Francisco. It was a mandate. If you were out without a mask, you could be cited or arrested. And then you were thrown in jail without a mask. And guess what happened in there? And that was a far more virulent, deadly disease. And one of the things that strikes anyone who reads about or studies the 1918-1919 pandemic here in the United States, especially the Western U.S., is that there were two kinds of government. There was the kind of government that just ruled by diktat and law and threat, and their efficacy is questionable. It's painted over because it was such a deadly influenza. A lot of people say, well, what could you have done in Los Angeles? And then there was another brand of government. And these were the so-called escape communities, these isolated places where they put a smart guy in charge. And he had everyone's trust, and he never lost it. And those are the communities that didn't lose anybody in 1918. And it's hard to draw an analogy, but the analogy about credibility is inescapable. So I've read this every couple months, and I think tonight it's more relevant than ever when we come back. There is a book, I can't recommend it highly enough, called The Great Influenza by John Barry, several years old now. As if you've been listening to me since December of 2007, you know that for some bizarre reason, I have a fascination with pandemics, and there's two things that shape human history, and it's war and disease. And the 1918-1919 pandemic was extraordinary in that it was the first worldwide pandemic that was actually accurately recorded. And one of the things that was recorded was how government responded and how the public responded. So the author of that book is pretty much the subject matter expert. He was called to Los Angeles for a simulation a couple of years ago. And he wrote about that in the Smithsonian in 2017. And what he said about that is going to resonate with you when I read that to you right after this break. It's the Dark Secret Place. Brian Suits in here until 11. KFI, AM 640, live everywhere on the iHeartRadio app. Claudette Stefanian with the news. It's gonna rock you. You've probably already heard it though. I'll give you a preview. So he wrote this article in 2017. This is how he wraps it up. So listen close to this. That is why, in my view, the most important lesson from 1918 is to tell the truth. Though that idea is incorporated into every preparedness plan I know of, its actual implementation will depend on the character and leadership of the people in charge when a crisis erupts. I recall participating in a pandemic war game in Los Angeles involving area public health officials. Before the exercise began, I gave a talk about what happened in 1918, how society broke down, and emphasized that to retain the public's trust, authorities had to be candid. You don't manage the truth, I said, you tell the truth. Everyone shook their heads in agreement. Next, the people running the game revealed the day's challenge to the participants. A severe pandemic influenza virus was spreading around the world. It had not officially reached California, but a suspected case, the severity of the symptoms made it seem so, had just surfaced in Los Angeles. The news media had learned of it and were demanding a press conference. The participants with the first move was a top-ranking public health official. What did he do? He declined to hold a press conference and instead just released a statement. Quote, more tests are required. The patient might not have pandemic influenza. There was no reason for concern. Close quote. I was stunned. This official had not actually told a lie, but he had deliberately minimized the danger. Whether or not this particular patient had the disease, a pandemic was coming. The official's unwillingness to answer questions from the press or even acknowledge the pandemic's inevitability meant that citizens would look elsewhere for answers and probably find a lot of bad ones. Instead of taking the lead in providing credible information, he instantly fell behind the pace of events. He would find it impossible to get ahead of them again. He had, in short, shirked his duty to the public, risking countless lives. And that was only a game. Sound pretty familiar, huh? I need more light in here. Hang on. All right, that's more light. I'm queued up. So it seems time. I bought, back in March, I bought the domain for antibodies only. And I've been thinking of, okay, what are the two things to do with that? That's Have Love Will Travel from the Sonics from the mid-'60s. So either make it a dating site for people who can confirm they had the vaccine, or turn it into some kind of digital credential that restaurants would accept or whatever, that you have this this chain code that's not replicable like Bitcoin, that shows that you did indeed receive the vaccine. Probably a dating site. Yeah, for antibodies only. 12-ounce beer is like a loaf of bread, man. I get, it's more email. I get way more emails about, I can't believe you're not talking about this. Blockchain. Sorry. Yeah, some kind of blockchain. By the way, the new 15-minute rapid serology antibody test, Harvard Medical School in August said it's got a 50% failure rate. I went to the supermarket chain that's advertising it, and there was a doctor at the pharmacy, and I said, yeah, I want to take that serology test, but what is the false positive rate? And she got confrontational with me. And I said, well, all I'm saying is I want to take two of them. I'll pay for two of them, but I want to split the sample. I want the same finger stick, the same draw, but I want two different tests. And she was kind of a bitch to me, and she wouldn't do it. So I went, and anyway, I came back negative. This is a punchline. Later that afternoon, I went to a different Ralph's in a different zip code, but across Santa Clarita Valley, took the same serology test, and I was positive. So I want to go back and do a 2 sample. But no, this doctor made a big deal of doing a finger stick, and I used to be a phlebotomist. I took dozens of blood samples before 7 a.m. in the Army at Fort Sam Houston. And she made a big deal about a fucking finger stick. And when you do a finger stick, you squeeze the person's finger, and she was like, eh, eh. And I said, so my VA antibody test back in August was positive because they split the sample, and both samples were positive. The rapid test is an antibody test based on a finger stick. KFI M640 live everywhere on the iHeartRadio app. It is the Dark Secret Place. And there's good news and bad news from 1918. And again, the author, John Barry, wrote the book, The Great Influenza, a couple of years ago, terrific book. And then in 2017, he wrote a quick version, How the Horrific 1918 Flu Spread Across America for the Smithsonian, and that's available online. It was deadly around the world, somewhere between 50 to 100 million victims. Here in the U.S., it was 650,000 in just a span of a few months. And it was the initial street scene descriptions are reminiscent of March. The fear emptied the streets too. A medical student working in an emergency hospital in Philadelphia, one of the nation's largest cities, encountered so few cars on the road, he took to counting them. One night, driving the 12 miles home, he saw not a single car. Quote, the life of the city is almost stopped, close quote. He said, remember March and April and May? Then, as suddenly as it came, influenza seemed to disappear. It had burned through the available fuel in a given community. The undercurrent of unease remained, but aided by the euphoria accompanying the end of the war, this is World War I, by the way, November 11th, 1918, traffic returned to the streets, schools and businesses reopened, and society returned to normal. A third wave followed in January of 1919, ending in the spring. This was lethal by any standard, except the second wave, and one particular case would have an exceptional impact on history. Then he details that Woodrow Wilson probably got it during the Versailles peace talks. After that third wave, the 1918 virus did not go away, but it did lose its extraordinary lethality, partly because many human immune systems now recognized it, and partly because it lost the ability to easily invade the lungs. No longer a bloodthirsty murderer, it evolved into a seasonal influenza. I don't have time. I'll pick it up here in the next hour, but I'll start this. So this is John Barry talking about now the lessons of 1918 being learned by today's public health officials. That is why, in my view, the most important lesson from 1918 is to tell the truth. Though that idea is incorporated into every preparedness plan I know of, its actual implementation will depend on the character and leadership of the people in charge when a crisis erupts. I recall participating in a pandemic war game in Los Angeles involving area public health officials. Before the exercise began, I gave a talk about what happened in 1918, how society broke down, and emphasized that to retain the public's trust, authorities had to be candid. You don't manage the truth, I said, you tell the truth. Everyone shook their heads in agreement. Next, the people running the game revealed that day's scenario to the participants. It was this: a severe pandemic influenza virus was spreading around the world. It had not officially reached California, but a suspected case, the severity of the symptoms made it seem so, had just surfaced in Los Angeles. The news media had learned of it and were demanding a press conference. The participant with the first move was a top-ranking public health official. What did he do? He declined to hold a press conference and instead just released a statement. Quote, "More tests are required. The patient might not have pandemic influenza. There is no reason for concern." Close quote. I was stunned. The official had not actually told a lie, but he had deliberately minimized the danger. Whether or not this particular patient had the disease, a pandemic was coming. The official's unwillingness to answer questions from the press or even acknowledge the pandemic's inevitability meant that citizens would look elsewhere for answers and probably find a lot of bad ones. Instead of taking the lead in providing credible information, he instantly fell behind the pace of events. He would find it almost impossible to get ahead of them again. He had, in short, shirked his duty to the public, risking countless lives. And that was only a game. Close quote. True story from 2016 here in LA County. Explains a lot, doesn't it? We'll be back next hour. The latest out of Iran. What are the likely scenario? What are the ways forward for Iran? What does retaliation look like without starting a general war, or does it? Hour number 2 of the Dark Secret Place right after this. KFI AM 640 live everywhere on the iHeartRadio app. Now I'm going to turn off all these lights. I'm thinking I should put a sign up right here that says, can you read that? Okay. Everything was fine. I only play This Is Library on Sunday nights, by the way. Yeah, actually, it was a King County library, I think. It was a library in downtown Seattle. But that story is still on King 5 in Seattle. Um, by the way, my daughter wants to move back to the Northwest, and it's just not going to happen. We're gonna check out Portland. um, in a couple weeks. But I mean, I know having lived in Portland when it was a great town, it's not like that anymore. And um, having known Seattle all my life,
Are you gonna play anything off your computer?
no. I know it's not the same town. So what really looks good to me, if you got to stay in California, and maybe I do, why not move to Morro Bay? I swear to God, man, Morro Bay. At least for a year or two, until my daughter goes into Cal Poly San Luis Obispo or whatever. But otherwise, man, I got to tell you, Idaho and Montana are looking really good. I love Wyoming. Oklahoma and Texas also look phenomenally good. But I know Idaho really well. I know the Boise area, and I know that I would immediately blend in. Out of the clear blue sky, something that came up is if I can work remotely, why not live in Port Townsend, Washington, or even back to Port Angeles? If I can work remotely, so that way I can go into Seattle if I give a shit. And not pay income tax. The best deal is living in Vancouver, Washington, because there's no state income tax. Then you do all your shopping in Portland, where there's no sales tax. That is the shit. It's like giving yourself a 10 or 15% raise immediately. I hate Anacortes. Burl Ives used to live there. Anacortes sucks. Anacortes sucks. Anacortes sucks. Yeah, or a little east of Vancouver, like White Rock. KFI AM640 live everywhere on the iHeart Radio app. It is the Dark Secret Place here. Your tracking of the entire world melting down, where it melts down, and how it is melting down, how fast it's melting down, and all of that will get to the new Ethiopia, one of the most obscure comings and goings of a civil war that we've seen, honestly, since the end of the Sri Lankan civil war, the end of the Tamil Tigers nearly a decade ago, which happened real fast. It was the end of a long time civil war, an actual separatist war, and it happened in weeks. And what happened in Ethiopia is a sort of a study, a redo of that. Next hour, I'll give you some backstory about December 5th, 1941, 79 years ago tonight. It was a Friday in Honolulu. And all the sailors got their Liberty cards, and they're going to go drinking and whoring. They're on Hotel Street, and the airmen and soldiers got their leaves for the weekends, the whole thing. And then the Pacific Fleet Command, Navy and Army, got the word that the Japanese code, the diplomatic code, which had been broken years before, but it was intercepted, that the Japanese had ordered their consulates and embassies to burn their code books and destroy their code machines. How did the Pacific Command react to such news? So it'll be next hour. Let's start with this. This is open source. I'm not revealing anything that I know that you can't access yourself. But Israel is busy Israel's busy doubling down with the security of their own nuclear scientists, both current and retired. And the deal is around the community of Dimona, where Israel's first reactor was, that has sort of popped up to be sort of a scientist community, sort of a retirement haven. And so Israeli army and national police are doubling down, bodyguards and all that, because there's a couple different, if you war game, how would Iran retaliate to the assassination of their Robert Oppenheimer, the head of the Iranian nuclear program, last Friday? Dr. Mohsen. And so what would you do? Because remember, last January, when Qasem Soleimani was killed on foreign soil, killed after he landed in Baghdad in Iraq, 5 days later, the Iranians fired a raft of ballistic missiles, their updated version of the old Soviet Scud missile of Gulf War fame, but with updated, better guidance and better payload and all this. But to relive that, now coming up on 12 months on that, but just to review, 5 days after Soleimani was killed, American forces at the Al-Assad base out west of Baghdad in El Anbar were given several hours heads up to take cover. And there are purpose-built bunkers at Al-Assad and most mature American bases in Iraq. Air Force bunkers are a little different than Army bunkers. They're a little more Gucci. But people were given several hours heads up to get in the bunkers. And so they were there. So if you recall, there was not a single death. Now, there were several dozen Air Force personnel who were close enough to the blast to be diagnosed with overpressure and possible traumatic brain injuries. But it seems that the Iranians went out of their way to not cause American casualties, because most of the missiles hit apparently how they were targeted, damaging the runway and tarmacs. But enough advanced warning was given that all the aircraft were flown away from Al-Assad, and all the personnel got in bunkers. And then the missiles hit, boom, 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 boom. And then a second salvo goes boom, 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 boom. And then the all clear is given, and the damage assessment begins. There's some collapsed temporary hangars and things like that. But all in all, really kind of a light show. But that happened 5 days after Soleimani was killed. And as I say, because I'm a big believer in reverse engineering of this, the Iranians were not targeting the dining facility or the gym or whatever. And even if they were, the American forces got hours of warning. So make of that what you will. So now it's day 8 since the assassination of Dr. Mohsen Beep Zadeh. And so far, nothing. what are the most likely scenarios? Why? The silence is deafening, isn't it? Are we waiting for the other shoe to drop? And that was a funny thing from your observers who are the most superficial, like for instance, your Joe Scarborough. They said that what Trump did was amazingly provocative. We'll be lucky not to go to war because Qasem Soleimani was, quote, basically the vice president of Iran. That's what Scarborough said on that Friday morning at 3 a.m. Pacific time. And because I'm into sadism, I wake up and I watch the opening break on that show live. And I couldn't believe he said that. I couldn't believe he's that dumb because he was unaware of what I told all of you. That Qasem Soleimani had as many enemies in the Iranian government as he did in the Pentagon. And that there were probably more high fives there. And so the retaliation against the Americans was superficial at best. So there's that. This is a bit different because the Iranians are serious about a nuclear program. And Mohsen Fakhrizadeh was the guy in charge of not just continuing the two-pronged program, the overt program and the covert program, but he was also in charge of the disinformation and all that. So this really was a sting. So the Israelis are saying, okay, let's war game. What are the likely retaliations? One of them is eye for an eye. One of them is that the Iranians somehow find a prominent, retired or current Israeli nuclear administrator, technician, scientist, whatever, and kill him. And then we call it even or whatever, or do we? What would be easiest, shooting a scud at Israel or getting an agent into Israel and have him get close to these nuclear scientists? But out of an abundance of caution, which is our phrase that pays of 2020, the Israelis, let me just read this to you. Nuclear scientists and former senior staff of the Dimona Nuclear Research Center are warned to alter their regular habits, including walking routes, refrain from opening strange packages, and be on the lookout for unusual events. Security officials warned that since the death of Iran's top nuclear scientist, they are potential targets and Iranian spies may be monitoring their activities online and on social media. That's a real basic precaution, is that you would tell those guys to alter their routine, or in some cases, if you have a way of going somewhere safer than outside Dimona or Israel, you might want to exercise that. By the way, the Israelis, their nuclear program was under the nose of Nixon. By the time Israel produced about 10 nuclear weapons, it was an open secret in the Middle East. By 1975, everybody knew that Israel was not going to be invaded again, that it was now a nuclear power. So there's that. And the development of the Israeli bomb was actually the model that Saddam used to educate his guys overseas, hide the program back in Iraq, disguise it as a nuclear power program, not a bomb program, the whole thing. But the Israelis, by the time the Israelis had perfected their bomb design and the whole schmear, it was too late. Nixon wasn't going to put the kibosh on them. So anyway, that's what the Israelis are doing, assuming one course of action, an eye for an eye course of action. What's the other course of action? What is most likely going to happen between now and the inauguration of Joe Biden at noon on January 20th, 2021. Back with that right after this. KFI AM 640 live everywhere on the iHeartRadio app. Claudette Stefanian with the news. You like my messy hair better than a hat? I almost thought about that, is going to Wazoo and getting a PhD in history, because Wazoo is one of the nation's best communications and history schools.
Why would a plumber just tell me what it costs to unclog my drain over the phone? Is it that complicated?
No, it's not. It makes no sense at all. They obviously have a
Probably the history of counterinsurgency. And yes, I just want to go drink. I mean, what? No, that's the problem, is that it would be hard to be in Pullman and not drink beer.
sure your Medicare Advantage plan includes access to PIH Health doctors and hospitals, including PIH Health Good Samaritan Hospital. Be sure to ask, will I get access to PIH Health hospitals? Can I continue to see my PIH Health doctors? Visit PIHHealth.org/Medicare or call 888-365-4450. That's 888-365-4450.
Are you a Citizen Kane fan?
Yes,
Oh, then yeah, you should see Mank on Netflix.
I've been hearing great shit.
Yeah, but I mean, the one proviso is you got to know the backstory because it doesn't. There's no like everyman narrator going, Orson Welles, who's he?
Yeah.
You know, none of that shit. It's really good. David Fincher directed it, and what's awesome is that he directed it in the style of Citizen Kane.
Yeah.
There's a rotating flashback and all that, plus the lighting and the sets. And then he even includes a cigarette burn every 15 minutes.
Huh.
Just like
Just like
putting together old movie reels.
Joe Escalante spoke highly of it.
Yeah, it might be a little lengthy for people, but I mean, you shouldn't even watch it if you don't know,
The original.
yeah, any of that backstory, because it doesn't. There's no rolling, you know, once upon a time there was an empire, and
Yeah.
you know, it's you just got to know who Herman Mankiewicz was, and that he wrote Citizen Kane, and that Orson Welles was the D. And also, it's not about Orson Welles. He's only in 2 scenes by phone call and 2 scenes in person. The guy, whoever the dude is that plays Orson Welles, nails his voice. I don't know how you do that, but I mean, watch the trailer.
Nice.
The guy has, you know, well, Mank, no, Mank, we said no credit, and it's really good.
Favorite role Orson Welles has ever played was doing the beginning narration of History of the World.
I also remember he was one of the, he was in,
2 minutes.
you know, the campy 60s Casino Royale with David Niven and Woody Allen. Wells was Le Chiffre. He was Le Chiffre, the Baccarat player.
Yeah.
That was like his one comedy
Yeah.
ever. Because otherwise, apparently, he was, you know, a hilariously funny guy, but he just never did it. He thought the comedies were for idiots.
He did History of the World.
Yeah. I mean, that was like late in life, I think he realized, oh, this.
That one was brilliant.
Yeah.
He was like, and then the it stood and became that. And then he just gets up and starts jerking off.
Yeah.
That is my favorite movie of all time. History of the World.
It's pretty damn funny. I don't know why, but I've memorized the Inquisition song.
That's a great fucking song.
It's a great number.
Yeah.
Dude.
Like, that's the kind of movie I want to see adapted to a screen, to a stage play.
I know, isn't
I
that
would
funny
see
that
in a fucking
I know.
heartbeat.
I'm queued up.
Alright. Off we go.
Christmas time is here. And if you're ready for your holiday soundtrack,
What's Orson Welles' movie? Oh, Touch of Evil. Touch of Evil is really good. With Charlton Heston. It's supposed to be in Laredo. And Charlton Heston is the Mexican police chief, and Wells is the evil, like, boss hog guy. A Touch of Evil. And Wells directed it, and it has like a 9-minute one-shot opening. It's an amazing.
Jesus Christ Show. Tomorrow morning at 6 on KFI AM 640.
Ching-a-ling. KFI M640. It is the Dark Secret Place. Brian sits in here till 11. And so likely scenarios. So what is Iran likely to do? Well, first of all, they're unlikely to not do anything because politically they have whipped up their own populace into, a fervor, even though the majority of the populace kind of rolls their eyes and says, what do you expect? But they have had, mandatory demonstrations and marches like they did yesterday. His funeral, Dr. Mohsen Fakhrizadeh, his funeral was nationally broadcast, and school was out and the whole thing. So it was a big deal. So clearly, if the government is that aggrieved, they have to do something. So as I say, the Israelis have said, well, let's assume less worst case scenario, eye for an eye. They try to kill one of our guys. So let's guard. Let's tell our nuclear people to be on the guard. So there's that. Now here's the thing from the Iranian perspective. They did something legally, and I'll explain it in the next break. They passed a law. The Majlis, the parliament, passed a law that Iran, now free from the constraints of the so-called Iran nuclear deal, the JCPOA, with the Europeans not doing their job and cajoling America into staying in the deal. They couldn't control Trump. Iran doesn't feel constrained by the deal anymore, and so they passed a law that Iran will now enrich their uranium stockpile up to 20%. They'll go past the current 5%, which is where you enrich uranium in order to get heat, which is how a nuclear power reactor works. It makes heat. The heat boils water. Boiled water makes steam. Steam turns turbine. A turbine turns a magneto. Magneto make electricity, and electricity turns your microwave on. Very devilishly simple, eh? But you don't need to enrich the uranium past 5%. What happens after 5%? Well, medical isotopes, 15%, 16%. There's a treatment for colon cancer where they bury tiny little radioactive seeds right there in your booty. If you're a man and you have a prostate. If you're a woman and they want to do that, just point out you don't have a prostate. But really up to 20%, or pardon me, after 20%, beyond research reactors, there's nothing to do until you get to 90%, which is bomb enrichment. That's what you need for nuclear fission. So why would you go to 20%? Well, because the next step is 90. I'll explain why. So it may be that the Iranians, realizing that if anything goes pew or bang, they're dealing with a lame duck president with nothing to lose, and that they might use this time to build up leverage that they can use against the incoming Biden administration, which they've already taken the measure of the Biden administration. They had a dry run for 8 years with Barack Obama. Biden wants to redo the same deal. And so what are they going to do between now and then? They may have played their hand already. So if you're waiting for something to go pew or bang, you may be waiting a long time. But I'll tell you why when we come back. It is the Dark Secret Place. KFI AM 640 live everywhere on the iHeartRadio app. Claudette Stefanian with the news. Arizona State with the throwback uniforms tonight. Airport or airplane?
There's no way around it. This stinks.
San Diego County Board of Supervisors Chairman Greg Fox says county halls need to build 11 county region orders to stay at home. San Joaquin Valley is still in lockdown. The Bay Area still is more than 20% of ICE. Preemptively working lockdown against no indoor or outdoor burning is allowed in much of Southern California because the board has to high pollution levels. South Coast Air Quality Management Plan is set back through tomorrow at midnight for County and on desert areas.
I haven't talked about that You guys heard about the father who decapitated his 2 kids in Lancaster? 2 of his 4 kids? That is fucking nuts. Oh, do you like our kabuki? You like our KFI performance art? Yeah, this guy Marvin Taylor Sr. It's kind of a long story. I'll tell you about it on the air, but the fire and sheriff's department went to the house on Friday, and the wife with the 2 living kids was there. And then the 12-year-old boy and 13-year-old daughter were in their bedrooms separately and dead and decapitated, which might be redundant. I'm not sure. I can't really say much about this, but the son may have gone to my daughter's elementary, because there's a lot of families from east of the 14, which is a code word, who want their kids to have a good education. And so they will drive 15 miles west to go out to the West Antelope Valley to go to a good elementary. And I mean, my hat's off to them, because they're passing a school a block away that sucks. And they're driving 15 miles every morning. Like, my daughter's best friend gets up at 5:45 to be at school by 7:45, because her mother is an administrator and teacher, and she drops another daughter off at Quartz Hill. And so I'm not sure, but I may have seen this kid. Anyway. And DCFS is saying they're not responding about whether or not the kids are in their system. They're just saying it's a sad event and we are expressing our sadness. I just don't see how they aren't in the system. How is it that these 4 kids, they live with a dad, nothing, there's no abuse, no nothing, then one day he beheads 2 of them? Pardon me. So I would be surprised if they weren't in the system. But I do have it on good authority. How much time? Okay. Yeah, I do have it on good authority. That there is a countywide pandemic of abuse happening in cases that are already in the DCFS system. That there are so many parents who have custody of their kids, and the kids are not at school, and the whole deal. And that there's an epidemic of child abuse happening. Did you guys hear about the 11-year-old in Lodi who killed himself in Zoom class on Thursday? And it wasn't an accident. He didn't say, "Oh, look, I found my older brother's gun." No, he had a gun. He turned the mic off and he shot himself, killed himself. It was the second suicide in the Lodi area, like within 48 hours. It's fucking criminal. And I'm here to tell you, a year from now, when people take a deep breath and realize that our public officials so badly led us during this, heads need to roll. Because, public health means the whole thing. It doesn't mean 99% have to take a hit so that 1% get 1 more year of life. That's not public health. Public health is that lady in Sherman Oaks, that woman who her outside dining was shut down. Meanwhile, there's a TV shoot and outside dining right next to her. But I mean, can you imagine losing 1 year of school? And this is something that I've talked about. I'm not an educator or a PhD in education. I'm a parent of a seventh grader. And I do know this. One of the purposes of school is, of course, fill your brain with that content, right? We all know that. But the other purpose of school is to learn how to learn. And we have decided the best way to learn how to learn, or how to learn, is to be in a room with an expert at the front and your undivided attention on them, away from home. That's how we do it in college. It's how we do it in kindergarten. And kids have to learn how to learn. And I would submit that from what I've seen, it's an easy habit to get out of when you're doing it by distance. And it's not good. I'm really, really lucky that my daughter is a very thoughtful person, but she's going through depression. And I have to get her mind off of it. And, I do it by taking her up to Tehachapi, and she flies a glider. But it's still not, she would still rather hang out with her friends.
And say the keyword KFI traffic. KFI AM 640.
More stimulus.
KFI AM 640, it is the Dark Secret Place. Live everywhere on the iHeartRadio app. And let me just repeat that the Pastathon is still going on, though we're not doing it on the air. However, our good friends and partners at Smart and Final are still taking your donations tonight and tomorrow night right up to close. And that means money at checkout, or you can donate pasta and sauce there. And that is going on until tomorrow night. So we'll have a final tally on Monday, but I do know that we are north of 500,000 now. And what's astounding about that is that beats last year, when the economy was booming and these COVIDs were just landing at LAX on a bunch of returning foreign students. What? And so thanks to all of you, and it's amazing that with what's going on, it's even more. And I would chalk it up to the fact that this is a annus horribilis, as the Queen said. It's a terrible year, and it very well may be that for a lot of people, you are tapping into the depths of your humanity, and you're saying, well, we could have it worse. Can you imagine not being able to feed your kids? Plus, this crap is going on, and you're reaching in your pockets, and you're doing what you would hope people would do for you. And I salute ye. All of us here at KFI are in bewildered awe at your grace and charitability. It's amazing. And 24 hours more to go, so go to Smart and Final. Don't go to Dumb and Temporary. I believe they're out of business. I think only Smart and Final is in business now. So you can't go to the wrong place. Go to Smart and Final, and there you go. So the Iranian response may have already happened, and as I said, it doesn't involve things going pew pew or bang or whatever, because the Iranians are aware that the Israelis have a plan. They have had a plan for 15 years since the Bush administration to take out Iran's nuclear infrastructure, including the secret stuff that we can't inspect and wasn't part of the nuclear deal. But everybody knows that they have it, except John Kerry and Susan Rice and Barack Obama, and presumably Joe Biden. Or it's even worse, they're denying that the Iranians have that covert program. The Israelis know, why wouldn't you have that? And so the Iranians know, we got to watch it. Because if, and again, for the record, they blame Israel for the death of Dr. Mohsen Fakhrizadeh. But they also blame us, because they know that probably the Israelis could not have carried that out without significant logistic or signal or intelligence preparation support from the United States. And I hope they're right, to be perfectly frank. So they know that if they do anything, if they strike at the Al-Assad Air Base again in western Iraq, or if they strike Israel, they will be setting into motion a now justified larger strike back on Iran. Only this would look way different than 1981 when Israel took off from Israeli soil and flew to Iraq, to Tuwaitha, Iraq, and took out Saddam's nuclear power plant, and then flew back to Israel. No one helped them. They didn't ask anyone's permission. All's good. Quietly, the Saddam's neighbors all breathed a sigh of relief on that one too. This would be different. This would be a far larger strike, and it would require and it would receive the assistance, cooperation, and participation of the Saudi Air Force, the Bahrain Air Force, more significantly, the Emirates Air Force, and their icky female pilots. And Israel would form a united front with the Gulf Arab Muslim states, and they would take out Iran's nuclear infrastructure in about 72 to 100 hours. And the Iranians know that the Israelis are just itching for that go sign, because they have a president in the White House that would not tell them not to do it, that would not hold the reins like George Bush did, like W did, then like Obama did. This would be different. Trump is on his way out. He doesn't like leaving unfinished business. Iran's unfinished business. Biden might undo what he did. The Gulf Arab states like these last 4 years. They like a world where they're honest about, well, the Israelis were never any skin off our nose. Now we're normalizing relations. Now we're brothers making a united front against the idea of a Persian bomb. They like this world. They didn't like the Obama world. They didn't like being told, don't worry, Iran won't have a nuclear weapon, when they know damn well the nature of Iran. The Israelis and the Gulf Arab states all know something that Susan Rice and John Kerry and Barack Obama and Joe Biden didn't know, or they denied, that the Iranians have zero incentive to not have a nuclear weapon. And so the Iranians are walking on eggshells. And it appears that by what the Majlis did on Wednesday was to enact a law ordering an immediate ramping up of its enrichment of uranium levels closer to weapons-grade fuel, and to bar all nuclear inspectors that the JCPOA, the so-called Iran nuclear deal, mandated. The new law orders Iran's Atomic Energy Agency to resume enriching uranium to a level of 20% immediately, returning Iran's program to the maximum level that existed before the 2015 deal. And so here's why that's significant, by the way. And here's the quick and dirty of this. Enriching uranium is not a 45-degree line. It's a hockey stick. It's geometric. In terms of, as they say, units of work, it takes 1,000 units of work to get to 5% enrichment. And then it takes another 200 units of work to get to 20% enrichment. And then it takes another 100 to get to 90%. So you see, when you get to 20, all of a sudden, as Netanyahu said, the breakout period shortens. It's like compounding interest, or is that right? But anyway, it's more like a hockey stick, in that enrichment is slow, and then it's very quick. It's very steep and very quick to get to that 90%. And that's a signal. It's a signal that they're not into medical isotope research, by the way. And so the Iranian gamble here is, we'll renegotiate a nuclear deal, and we'll have an even stronger hand this time for this Biden guy. Because if he is any kind of a pushover, as Obama was, we'll get an even better deal with fewer inspections and the whole thing. Maybe the Israelis did us a big favor because we have an excuse to enrich to 20%. That is what they're gambling. Right now they're mad at the Europeans because the Europeans showed some unusual backbone, and they said, well, okay, if we're going to renegotiate that entire deal, we also have to include the Iranian conventional ballistic missile and cruise missile programs, because those are also destabilizing the Middle East. So the Iranians are saying, hey, one crappy deal at a time, okay? Back in a second, it is the Dark Secret Place. Brian Seats in here until 11, KFI AM 640, live everywhere on the iHeart Radio app. Claudette Stefanian with the news.
says his deputies will not be enforcing the state's stay-at-home order. He says the order is a matter of personal responsibility, not law enforcement. The California Public Health Department has announced regional stay-at-home orders to take effect tomorrow at midnight. The order for SoCal covers LA, Orange, Riverside, Imperial, Inyo, Mono, San Bernardino, San Diego, San Luis Obispo, Santa Barbara, and Ventura counties. We check out the 60 next.
What are you doing to keep your nose clean? After all, the nose is your body's air filter, the first line of defense against airborne diseases. I'm Martin Hoke, and I invented Navage, the power suction nose cleaner. Navage.
The thing that I thought of today is, there's a teachers union and prison guard unions and the whole thing. There's not a parents union. Like if you have a kid between kindergarten and 12th grade, you'd come together in the California parents union, and you would wield considerable power, and you could attract Democrats and Republicans just under a single sentence, which is, we are committed to holding the government accountable for the California constitutional pledge that every child shall have a world-class free education. I mean, it's in the Constitution. That's what the basis of that lawsuit is right now. So it would be immensely powerful because you would hire a lobbyist or 20, because actually stalking the halls of Sacramento actually has an effect because there's such cowards up there. That they're like, oh, you're from LA and you're just one guy. Who cares? But if you say, yeah, I represent the California Parents Union in your assembly district, and what are you doing to push Gavin Newsom to open schools? Yeah, but like I say, the only issue is just pushing for good public schools. Now, if you had some debate about critical race theory, and people who want to get together and push that bullshit, that's a different deal. Yeah, 1619 project, which has been discredited by actual credible people.
Just a little under 2 minutes.
Okay. I'm going to play Son of a Preacher Man. By the way, whoever did that, feel free to donate money to the Unsheep Yourself YouTube channel so I can get a better set. A better set and a better backdrop. I'll start at the beginning. All right. I am queued up. KFI AM 640. It is a Dark Secret Place. Live everywhere on the iHeartRadio app. Hey, former employee of the month, Tony, or any of you guys in there, at what point do we have to pay royalties? Don't you have to go like past a minute before they charge you on Music Scan? Or is it like 30 seconds? Because that's the problem with that song. It's such a great song. Oh, crap! But it doesn't, but it has that fat horn chorus. And so well, I know, but then it has such a great beginning. Damn you, Dusty Springfield, for making such a great song. How would that sound? I couldn't do that. That would just be a crime. To go from that and then suddenly just go, fast forward. Anyway. So yeah, there's a thing. That's how artists get paid or whatever. Back when they used to get paid. So we'll talk about this tomorrow night on Super Hyper Local Sunday. But I just want to, talking about the pandemic and all this. I don't know that what happened in Lancaster yesterday, or what was discovered in Lancaster yesterday, has anything to do with it. But I can tell you this: up in Lodi on Thursday, a sixth grader, an 11-year-old, 11. During Zoom school, during distance school, Zoom classroom, shot himself in the head, killed himself with a gun. And it wasn't a case of a kid showing off to his buddies in class going, hey, look, everyone, I found my dad's gun or my brother's gun or whatever. No, he took the gun and he put it to his head and shot and killed himself in front of his classmates up in Lodi on Thursday. That's such a horrible story. It's being suppressed in the media. And I sense that there is some pressure to silence the debate on the other epidemics that the draconian and ineffective measures that the state and the county have enacted, because public health, the concept of public health has been lost in this pandemic, that it's the entire public, which means the economy, people's livelihoods, etc. And you don't penalize 99% of a body because 1% is an issue. If one restaurant has a bee in the window, you don't shut them all down. And so these are inconvenient stories. Now, here's the thing. Did things like this happen last year? Well, not on Zoom, but yeah. Teenagers commit suicide. It's just that as you're hearing here on KFI, we have 3 different counties' mental health departments advertising. There is a tremendous spike in various counties' DCFS, the reports of ongoing cases going turbo because people are isolated, not in school, around their parents that are, in many cases, the abusers, but they still have custody of their kids. That's happening. Teen suicides aren't, and I don't say spiking, they're bumping. They're above the normal rate. There is sadly a normal rate of suicide every single year. It's been almost parallel for 30 years. This year there's an undeniable bump. And what's sad is that the younger kids too, plus adults, and all that. So now I'm not conflating 2 different stories, but what happened in Lancaster yesterday is shocking. And it's another one of these stories that is so shocking that it's going to go out of the news here in LA by Monday. But it's going to be worldwide news. But a man, 34-year-old man in Lancaster is under arrest because he was an online fitness and a therapy guy, physical therapy guy, and he had Zoom meetings with clients, and he just suddenly wasn't responding on Zoom for a couple days. And so some clients said, well, there might be a gas leak or something. Apparently that was the initial call. And Lancaster, LA County Fire went to the address in Lancaster, east of the 14. And LA Sheriff responded as well. And when they got there, they found that the man was alive, his wife was alive, 2 of his other kids were alive, but his 12-year-old boy and his 13-year-old daughter were in their bedrooms, dead and decapitated. Story to follow. And I mean, as I say, I have no idea what was going on there. By the way, for the record, as of tonight, LA County Department of Child and Family Services says that so far they have no record of this family being in the system or whatever. They're just expressing their sorrow at the incident. But that's something they've said in the past, by the way. Not that it's going to matter. But something was very wrong in that house, and it winds up with a 12-year-old and a 13-year-old killed, evidently, at the hand of their father and decapitated. So an absolute nightmare right in your backyard. And so, we'll learn more. But what we do know is that there's a self-inflicted epidemic of depression, clinical depression. Psychiatric hospitals are filled. Therapists are backed up for weeks and weeks and weeks. You can't get a psychiatric ER bed right now in Southern California. And suicide attempts are up, and suicide is up. They've actually documented it in Japan. We're not quite doing it here, and I sense that it's because that would elicit uncomfortable questions for these same county public health directors, which is, don't you think you've come to the point where you're no longer benefiting public health, that these measures are so draconian, and you've lost so much credibility that you're now perhaps suppressing another epidemic that's happening beneath the sheets, under the covers of darkness, and that no one's covering it. So anyway, there's that. So December 5th, 1941, on this date, 79 years ago, the U.S. commanders at Pearl Harbor, Subic Bay, Philippines, San Diego, were given the information that the Japanese diplomatic code had been broken, and that Japanese consulates and embassies were being told to burn their code books and destroy their encryption machines. That was 2 days before Pearl Harbor. What's the backstory on that? What more do you need? Why was that ignored 2 days later, or that day on Friday, December 5th? Was the what do they say in the Navy? The sun has passed the yardarm or whatever. The Liberty cards were out. We'll talk about that. Hour number 3, the Dark Secret Place, right after this. Brian Suits here, KFI, M640, live everywhere on the iHeartRadio app. Oh, what? What the hell? It disconnected. You know what? I think we got a problem here. We have a battery that's about to die. So anyway, okay. I think 2 hours is enough. Scroll back, Brian. Or I'll do it on this YouTube. Scroll back to what? Oh, is that what that is? You're bidding on a date? No. But I gotta, tomorrow night I'll bring an extra battery.